So now we need to define some characteristics of anti-Pelagianism. So who's the paradigm case of being an anti-Pelagian? Well, it's Augustine, St. Augustine of Hippo. So Augustine distinguishes between nature and grace. He also distinguishes between what we would call condign and congruous grace. That is, grace given without any human participation or activity, and then grace that's given that we cooperate in. So this would be the distinction between, between operative grace and cooperative grace. And you can see this in Augustine's letter, work on the letter and the spirit, and a number of other works that he wrote. So next, it's participationist. What does this mean? It doesn't mean everybody gets a trophy. What it means is that because Augustine distinguishes between nature and grace, he believes that Adam was created, grace was added to him at the moment of creation to kind of stabilize his nature and help perfect him. And so for Augustine, when Adam falls, he falls from a state of grace to nature. Now it's nature in a weakened state, but the nature in and of itself is still fundamentally good. So what is the participationist idea? The participationist idea is that in salvation, Augustine believes that our acts participate in God's acts, that they partake, that there's an overlap, that these two acts kind of co-inhere with each other. So you could say that for Augustine, one and the same act can be both fully mine and also fully God's at the same time. No zero sums. What does this mean? This means basically that for Augustine, things are not a zero-sum game with it when it comes to activity, that is human and divine activity. It's not the case that if I'm working, God can't be working. And if God is working, I can't be working. Now, that may be true in some cases for Augustine, but in justification, Augustine is very synergistic in the respect that he believes that we participate in God's act. So that's what it means by zero sum. It's not a zero sum game. It's not like I'm pulling, two guys are pulling a load, and if one guy sits down, the other guy has to make up the difference. That's not how Augustine thinks of it, right? It's cooperative. Augustine also thinks of, or anti-Pelagianism is characterized by faith as a condition or ground of justification. And this is a very realist view of justification. By realist, I mean the idea that things are called or classified on the basis of their nature. So the idea would be for Augustine, Abraham has faith. Faith is a supernatural virtue that pleases God. And that's the basis on which God declares Abraham just. So it's still legal. It's still a legal declaration, but it's based on something that's true of Abraham. So then next we have faith as a valuable, faith is valuable or a pleasing virtue. So anti-Pelagians generally see, like Ambrose and Augustine and others, and Eastern Fathers as well, see faith as being intrinsically valuable as opposed to extrinsically valuable. The difference is intrinsically it's valuable in and of itself, as opposed to it's valuable for what you can use it for. Right? That will be an important distinction in just a few moments. Also, anti-Pelagianism is characterized by a coalescing or a confluence of divine and human activities. Again, that gets us back to the participationist. They also view that there's a qualitative change in us with respect to justification. So it's not quantitative. So for Augustine and Ambrose and other people, it's not how much righteousness you have in terms of God producing good works in you that please him because they have that supernatural characteristic. It's that they're qualitatively different. It's not that they're quantitatively different. This is why they talk about increasing in justice. Next, anti-Pelagianism is characterized by the notion of an adherence or an adhering cause, so that faith, again, is that real state of the soul that is the cause of justification, right? It's the basis for justification. Also, anti-Pelagians will include, when they exclude works of the law, a person's own natural ability, they'll include that works of the law therefore means also the moral precepts of the law, not just the ceremonial aspects. Now, also the last thing is an important point. They do talk about meriting God's favor, but there's no strict merit. That is, it's not a one-for-one relation. It's not like in the Gospels where Jesus says, you know, when I was thirsty, you gave me a cup of water. Okay, a cup of water is now proportionate to eternal life. That would be, cup of water would be, okay, here's $1 or whatever the market value of $1 is, right? That would be strict merit. But when anti-Pelagians talk about merit or meriting God's favor, they mean it in the sense of pleasing God, right? As Paul says in, I think, 1 Thessalonians 4:1, he talks about our good works that please God, which for some strange reason, when Calvin comments on it, he just kind of ignores that whole language of pleasing, good works pleasing God. In any case, there's no strict merit. There is merit, but it's not strict merit. And that will be very important, because sometimes, like, people like Mr. Rogers come to these texts where they talk about merit, or they see merit in theological sources. They think, well, it's merit, so it's earning, and it's a one-for-one relationship. So Augustine, for example, talks about God crowns our merits with his grace, right, with his gifts and things like this. So it's, what they're trying to say is the act is both ours and it's both God's, right? So we can't claim any ultimate credit for it, but it is pleasing to God.